The stock market can feel, well, just chaotic, right? Totally random, completely unpredictable. But what if I told you it wasn't? What if a Wall Street titan from a century ago claimed he had actually cracked the code, that he'd figured out the real rules and could teach us how to read the market's mind?
This guy's Richard D. Wyckoff. He started from the absolute bottom, a stock runner at 15, literally running paper between offices, and climbed all the way to the top. And from that vantage point, he saw something that really bothered him. He saw a pattern over and over again. Regular folks, the small investors, were just getting absolutely fleeced by the big institutions, what he called the smart money. And he decided he wanted to level the playing field.
And this quote, this is where it all begins. Wyckoff's entire method hinges on this single, really powerful idea. He said, forget about the millions of different buyers and sellers, all that noise. Instead, you should study the market as if it were all the result of one single person's actions. One mind pulling all the strings. It simplifies everything, doesn't it?
So let's talk about this one person. Wyckoff gave this theoretical entity a name. He called him the composite man. I want you to picture a shadowy figure, operating behind the scenes, controlling all the major market moves, and, manipulating stocks for his own personal gain.
So what's this composite man's game plan? Well, it's shockingly simple. He just wants to buy low and sell high. I know, groundbreaking, right? But the secret is in how he does it. He wants to quietly accumulate a ton of stock at low prices without alerting anybody, and then, later on, sell it all to an excited, enthusiastic public at much higher prices. Understanding his strategy is the absolute key to trading with the smart money instead of getting crushed by it.
Now, you might be thinking, this all sounds pretty random, but Wyckoff insisted it's not. The composite man's behavior is actually predictable, and it's governed by 3 fundamental laws that we can see playing out on any price chart.
The first law is the foundation of every market on Earth. It's just plain old supply and demand. When the buying pressure, or demand, is stronger than the selling pressure, or supply, prices just have to go up. And of course, when there are more sellers than buyers, prices fall. This is the engine driving every single move.
The second law tells us that big moves don't just happen out of nowhere. I want you to think of it like a coiled spring. A long period where a stock is just trading sideways, what Wyckoff called the cause, is actually building up potential energy for a huge future trend. That's the effect. And the longer the cause, well, the more powerful that eventual effect is going to be.
And the third law, this one's like your early warning system. Effort, which we see as trading volume, should lead to a result, which is the price moving. So, if you see a massive amount of volume, a huge effort, but the price barely moves an inch, that's a giant red flag. It's whispering to you that the current trend is exhausted and a reversal might be right around the corner. So these 3 laws, they aren't just abstract theories. The composite man uses them to execute a master plan. It's a complete cycle, and it's designed to systematically funnel wealth from the masses to the few.
And this plan really just boils down to 2 critical phases. First up is accumulation. This is the quiet period, after a downtrend, where he's stealthily buying up shares. And then you have distribution. That's the big, frenzied party at the top of the market, where he sells those exact same shares to an excited public.
And here's the crucial part. These phases aren't invisible. They actually leave a very distinct footprint on the charts, a structure that we can actually learn to identify.
And these, right here, these are the blueprints for his campaigns. Just take a look. On the left, you see the schematic for accumulation. That's his buy plan. And on the right, you've got the schematic for distribution, his sell plan. These are the classic patterns the composite man runs over and over and over again.
So let's look a little closer at accumulation. The whole goal here is to buy without pushing the price up. So first, he stops the panic selling, and then he just quietly builds his position over time. But notice phase C. This is the really clever part. He often creates what's called a spring, a sharp, sudden dip below what looked like a solid price floor. It's designed to shake out any remaining nervous sellers before he finally starts pushing the price higher.
Okay, so that's the playbook for buying low. But an even more important part of the plan is knowing how to sell high. So how exactly does he do it?
While in distribution, the entire process is just flipped on its head. Now his goal is to sell his huge inventory without crashing the price. He stops the rally, and then he carefully sells his shares into all that public demand. The trick here is often in phase C, where he might create one last upthrust, a false breakout to a new high. It's designed to trap the last of the eager buyers right before he lets the price fall.
Okay, so now that we know the theory behind the composite man's operations, how do we actually use this stuff? Wyckoff laid out a really practical 5-step approach to put all this knowledge into action.
It's a step-by-step process. First, figure out the overall market trend. Second, find stocks that are moving in harmony with that trend. Third, make sure that stock has built up a big enough cause for the move you're expecting. Fourth, check if the stock is actually ready to move. And finally, time your entry with the broader market. It's a complete framework for making trading decisions.
Wyckoff gave away the composite man's secrets almost a century ago. And yet, today's markets are dominated by algorithms, but this method is still so powerful because it's based on the one thing that never changes: human psychology. Greed and fear still drive the cycles. The playbook is public. The only question left is, can you spot the composite man's next move?